watching the award-winning GHS-TV, a nationally recognized student television station.
Welcome to Public Square, a show where we explore the hot topics of the day, where we explore issues in depth and learn from the experts about how we can engage as citizens. I'm your host, Jerri Green, and today's topic, the resettlement of Afghan refugees. As President Biden withdrew troops quickly from Afghanistan, just as quickly, many people in Afghanistan began looking for a way out, a safe harbor, some literally clinging to airplanes as they attempted to evacuate desperate families. These people were compelled to abandon their country due to very real fears. Many had directly aided our troops, some serving as interpreters. Others feared discrimination, persecution, harassment, or worse, torture and death at the hands of the Taliban. Whether they were women and girls seeking an education and career, or LGBTQ+ individuals seeking to live their truth, or brave folks who fought alongside our troops, these people were so afraid that they fled their country with the clothes on their back. And now, many are making their way not just to the shores of America, but to our community here in the Mid-South. So what does that mean to have these refugees here, and for them, and for us? Let's discuss. Please welcome my first guest, PJ Moore, Executive Director of World Relief Memphis. First, thank you for taking the time to come here today. I know you are very busy. Please tell us a little bit as we start here about World Relief and what you do.
Yeah, thanks, Jerri, and thanks for having me on the show. I am so grateful for the opportunity to discuss this with you, to share what we do and how we can become a welcoming community to our newest neighbors here in the Mid-South. So World Relief, we are a global Christian relief and development organization. We're located in 9 countries currently around the world and 20 U.S. cities across the U.S. For the last 75 years, we worked in over 100 countries and impacted the lives of over 100 million people. We work in really 4 key areas, which are disaster response, conflict and violence and oppression, extreme poverty, and the 4th is mass displacement. And so whether that be in the overseas context or here in the U.S., we're working with those that have been forced to flee from their homes as they're searching for a new beginning. And in Memphis, our office is contracted with the U.S. State Department to receive families that have been gone through the refugee resettlement screening process and have been selected to come to the U.S. And we receive them here in our community and help them really get started in rebuilding their lives. Our mission, I'll say this last, our mission is to empower local churches and community partners here in the community to engage and befriend and serve the vulnerable families that are coming as they're seeking to rebuild.
And about how many people have you served here over the years in Memphis? And I guess how many years have you been working here in Memphis?
Yeah, World Relief opened its office here in 2012. And since then, we've served about 10,000 people over the last 9 years.
And currently, we're here today to talk about the Afghan refugees that are now resettling here in our community. Tell us a little bit about how many you're seeing and what you're doing to help.
Yeah, so across the country, there is an estimated about 70,000 Afghans that are currently being processed in different military bases and then being sent to different cities. Our capacity in Memphis currently is 36 individuals coming from Afghanistan. We anticipate that number could go up, but that's our current capacity. And we'll be receiving those families over the next really 2.5 to 3 months. And we have a short-term federal program that they're enrolled in as we're serving them. And we're constantly, right now, trying to build support for some of our other wraparound services that we do in-house to be able to extend those to the Afghan arrivals.
I've heard you speak about this before, and you've talked about the 3 stages, the welcome, the stabilization, and the integration. Can you tell us a little bit about those 3 stages?
Yeah, so really, when a family has been forced to flee their home because of well-founded fear of persecution or because of conflict, um, they oftentimes are not able to bring anything with them except for who they are, right? And when they come, people coming from all over the world, and in this case, we're talking about those from Afghanistan. They bring their resiliency, their steadfastness, their culture, their values to share with us. And when they are first coming, there are some barriers as they're learning U.S. culture. And so what we try to do at World Relief is partner new families with teams of volunteers to help them navigate that journey of first being welcomed and having that warm, hospitable welcome that we're really famous for here in Memphis in the Mid-South. And saying, hey, we're glad you're here. We're welcome, glad you're here. Here's where you should go grocery shopping. Here's what parks you should go to. Here's how to enjoy the city that we have. And then that stability phase is kind of that next step is how do we pursue stability for you or your family? And that's through programming in-house at World Relief Memphis or through one of our community partners across the city. So services such as English language training, intensive case management, maybe for those that need help navigating the healthcare system or our school system for youth that are entering our school system. There's some things for families to navigate. And so we're there with our caseworkers alongside our volunteer network to help people find stability. And then lastly, that integration piece, right? That's what we long for our families, and we get to see unfold over time. And that's when people really are able to embrace U.S. culture while also clinging to what makes them unique and the unique values or the unique elements of their own culture that we get to weave into the fabric of our Memphis community. And so it can take sometimes a couple months, sometimes years. Each family is different, but it's an honor to get to walk alongside families as they're navigating that journey.
So it sounds like you're doing a lot of things. I assume that you are looking for donations, clothing drives, housing. Tell me about how community partners have been stepping up to help you.
Yeah, what's unique about what's happening with the Afghan evacuation crisis is those families qualify for the short-term assistance that the kind of typical refugee population qualifies for, but that assistance ends after 90 days of living in the U.S. And so we're currently seeking support to offer our extended services to these Afghan families that are coming. And so first, what we're looking for are donations to help us furnish apartments. We find apartments and we furnish them before the families come. So we're looking for items such as new mattresses, as well as bed frames, couches, kitchen tables, and chairs. Mm-hmm. Those are the hardest to find, the most expensive to acquire. Mm-hmm. And so we're looking for donations in that regard. We're also looking for donations to fund some of those wraparound services that I mentioned previously.
And you've mentioned this a couple of times, the vetting process. For those who might be pushing back or worried about, who's coming here, like you said, they come with just themselves. Can you speak a little to how these families and individuals are vetted before they become members of our community?
Yeah, that's a really good question, and we have been receiving that. And it's really important that we have a safe, thorough vetting process for the families that are coming through. And really, our national security community has been working around the clock since things really started to go sideways in August in Afghanistan. And so we see that community, the FBI, Department of Homeland Security, the National Center for Counterterrorism, they have reviewed their screening process to ensure that the Afghans that are being processed currently at military bases or in bases in Germany and Qatar are going through that same rigorous process that the refugee arrivals have gone through before their arrival to the U.S. And actually, there have been cases of families or individuals that have gone through the process and actually have been deported from those U.S. bases, which I think is actually encouraging that there's proof that process is working and that it's a thorough check. But I'll say this, that really that question is good and it's valid, but many of these families, and I've met some myself, we've had teams on the bases helping to process in partnership with other agencies across the country. These families are fleeing some horrific circumstances, and they're in some of their darkest days that they'll see. And my hope is that our community responds in courage and in faith, not fear, as we get to welcome these families. And a mentor once told me kind of early when I was getting into this work to not stifle a feeling of generosity that's coming up inside. And so to listen to that and to ask yourself, where am I being asked to step into this situation? And that's a place where I would ask people to start.
I love that. You know, one of the other pieces that I've heard questions around this is, will they be on a legal path to citizenship? Are you helping guide them on that path? What partners are you working with on that?
That's a really good question, too. When we heard that we were going to be able to receive Afghan families, I reached out to some of our legal partners in the community, and there's an awesome coalition called Welcome South. It's a coalition of 3 nonprofit organizations here in Memphis that are specialized in serving immigrants as they're making their way from whatever situation they're in and seeking citizenship or seeking reunification with family. There are qualified attorneys helping families do that. And so we're partnering with Welcome South to offer free services for these families. And that's to help them, whether based on their circumstance. There's a lot of different things or kind of routes depending on what families are coming and what applications they maybe already had in process before they evacuated Afghanistan. And so we'll have that team of legal assistants prepared for when families come. That way, those that are allowed to can pursue citizenship, and we think most will. And we're advocating actually currently at the national level to ensure that all of these families will have a pathway towards citizenship.
One final question. I want to hear, since you are a faith-based organization and we know we have lots of wonderful churches and other organizations here in Memphis, what are you seeing from that community? How are they supporting you?
Yeah, it's been encouraging to see people from all different backgrounds, all walks of life, reach out to us and say, how can we get involved? As a Christian organization, we definitely focus on working with churches in a lot of different spaces. And so we've been really encouraged by that. Each year we've partnered with over 100 different churches throughout the community. And we feel that this is really core to our identity. We are people that want to be welcoming, that are asked to show hospitality to strangers in the scriptures. And Jesus himself was a refugee, having fled the king at the time when he was born, King Herod, into Egypt. And so there's an incredible opportunity as people of faith to be welcoming. And a number of churches have reached out to us to offer volunteers, to offer resources and donations, and we've been grateful for that support.
Well, thank you. Thank you to all of those organizations and churches and all the people you've spoken about today that have stepped up, and to you and to your organization, and to giving us some time today to give us perspective on what we're able to do here in this community. I appreciate your time. Thank you.
Thanks for having me.
Stay tuned. We'll be back with more here on Public Square.
GHS-TV started in 1982, and it was just a couple of cameras, a couple of on-air personality, and it's really grown into what you see today. It's a multi-million-dollar studio with top-of-the-line technology.
Being able to operate, all of the machinery in the control room, being able to use all of our software and hardware that we have around the studio is a great skill, because this is top-of-the-line equipment.
I feel like this class has brightened my horizon. It's something that I never thought I would be doing, especially as a student.
GHS-TV is probably one of the most hands-on experiences a student will ever get in their lifetime.
Welcome back to Crosstalk. Nothing really has just the vibe that we have here.
Especially after you finish, you get a real rush of, wow, I just did that.
By the time a student graduates from Germantown High School, they will know pretty much every position there is, from producing to directing to on-air work.
You learn time management, you learn organization, you learn how to work with people, how to better communicate with people.
We put a lot on them, and they have to be able to have the responsibility and the knowledge to get everything that we ask them.
I had very little experience, so in the past 3 years, the skills that I've learned have absolutely exponentially grown.
The class has actually helped me figure out that I want to go to college for journalism.
When a student graduates, they are the best possible version of themselves that they can be.
Thanks for tuning in. We'll see you tomorrow.
For more information about the Kappa program, visit ghskappa.com or call 755-7775. You're watching the award-winning GHS-TV, a nationally recognized student television station.
Welcome back. I'm Jerri Green, your host of Public Square. Today, we are discussing the resettlement of Afghan refugees here in our community. It is my distinct pleasure now to introduce Kevin Reardon, a former Lieutenant Colonel with our JAG Corps who served in Afghanistan. Thank you for joining us, Kevin. I appreciate your time today. First, tell me your official title there and what you did in Afghanistan.
Thank you, Jerri. I'm glad to be here. I was from October 2007 to October 2008. I was the command judge advocate for the Afghan Regional Security Integrated Command Cell in Kandahar Province, Afghanistan. As command judge advocate, this was a training mission. The mission was to train the Afghan Army soldiers and the Afghan police in southern Afghanistan. As the command judge advocate, I was the commander's legal advisor, his lawyer. I was also the mentor to my counterparts in the Afghan Army's 205th Corps. They're Army lawyers, Army judges, prosecutors, defense attorneys, and so on.
And so when you were there, I assume you had an interpreter.
I did. The two main languages in Afghanistan are Dari and Pashto. I unfortunately don't speak either one. So I needed an interpreter to do my job. I spent 5 days a week with my counterparts in the Afghan Army. So very much needed an interpreter and was fortunate to have a very good interpreter.
Tell us a little bit about him and about your time with him.
Well, I'm not sure many people would understand this, but I consider the 12 months I spent in the war zone there really one of the formative experiences of my life. My interpreter was probably in his mid-20s then. He had postponed his studies in law at the university level to serve as an interpreter. Every morning, I would drive over to the Afghan camp, the interpreter's camp, and pick him up. And then we would drive over to the Afghan Army camp. So we were usually together 5 days a week, every day for about a half a day. Of course, he interpreted for me, but more importantly, he introduced me to the culture of Afghanistan. He was my bridge to a world that was very foreign to me. He explained the customs, folk beliefs, Afghan etiquette, and so on. I could not have done my job without him. And ultimately, we formed a relationship that's lasted for 13 years now.
And has he been able to leave Afghanistan at this time?
Unfortunately, no. It's a heartbreaking situation. He, his wife, and his children were among the thousands of Afghan interpreters and their families who were left behind by the administration when they finished their formal evacuation efforts on August 31st. However, a group of fellow veterans and I have found ways to support my interpreter and his family financially. And we're also advocating to get him, his wife, and his children out of the country. This man gave 15 years of service to our country, honorable service. He risked his life to serve with me. We traveled together, we flew together, we ate together. At any time out on the road, he could have been blown up. Both of us could have been blown up. Fortunately, we weren't, thanks be to God. But it was very dangerous and scary at times. Additionally, I know that in the years since then, he has received what are called night letters. Letters from the Taliban letting him know they don't appreciate the work he did, and that if they get their hands on him, they will kill him because of his association with me and other Americans.
That's
It's
very serious. Do you, to the people who are concerned, that have expressed concern, whether it's about vetting or just having people come here this quickly, what do you say to them?
Oh, well, first off, I would say that those Afghans who served with the U.S. forces as interpreters or cooks or drivers have already been vetted repeatedly over and over again. I dare say many Americans could not make it through the vetting process that these people have gone through. So they have been vetted repeatedly. I also know that, there are some people who say, well, we should spend our tax dollars on Americans first. Well, my experience has been that the people who say those things, when you question them, really aren't in favor of spending tax dollars on anyone but themselves. So, and at any rate, these are people, by and large, who have served our country in many cases. They're not coming here to spread religious extremism or violence. They know all about religious extremism and violence. They've suffered from it.
What do you think they will bring to our community?
A lot of strength, great strength of character, strong work ethic, strong family ties. They'll bring that immigrant drive that so many groups have brought to our country over our lifetime as a country. They have a strong culture, music, dance, storytelling, good food. They'll bring a lot to the community. So it's not just a matter of our helping them. Their presence will help us and make us a stronger community.
In my work, I have seen, for example, officers at the naval base reach out to me and want to do clothing drives and to help move furniture. And you have mentioned that you have a group of veterans that are trying to help out your interpreter. What is your sense of what veterans are trying to do to help integrate and welcome these refugees?
Well, for any veteran and especially those who serve in Afghanistan, the scenes we've seen out of Afghanistan this year have been heartbreaking. I mean, it's just the day Kabul fell was one of the worst days of my life. So many of us, especially those who serve with interpreters, form strong relationships with the Afghan people. They were loyal to us, and we have to be loyal to them. It's not just a government commitment, it's a personal commitment. So that's why you see so many veterans struggling hard to help the people who are on the way and continuing to pressure our government to get the other people they left behind out of the country because they deserve to be here too.
I've heard you speak on this topic before, and Memphis is a big food town, and one of the things that you've mentioned they will bring is good food. So I want you to talk about that a little bit, but also tell us what else you think that we as a community should be expecting.
Oh, well, The food is excellent. I would put it in the category, although Afghanistan is not really in the Middle East, I think geographers would say it's in South Asia. It's part of that broader Islamic world, world of Islamic culture. So the food is great. There are lots of grilled meats like mutton, chicken, so on. The bread or naan is excellent. If you like good hearty food, you'll like Afghan food.
That sounds like Memphians. That's what we like.
Yes, yes. So they will bring a lot to the country, to our city. It's also important for people to remember that they loved their country too. And so there's going to be a lot of sadness and a lot of trauma to overcome. It's going to be a great struggle for them, especially for the adults, to adapt to our ways of doing things. Easier for the children, not so easy for the adults. But so we need to be patient. We need to understand that this is going to be a long, difficult process for them. But other groups have made that transition to life in America, and the Afghans will too.
Well, that was a really important reminder, and I very much appreciate your perspective, and I want to thank you personally for your service and how you are continuing to serve our community and these refugees as well. Thank you for coming on today, Kevin.
Glad to be here, Jerry. Thank you for inviting me.
The U.S. has spent 20 years encouraging young people and women's rights activists to take the lead, to break barriers, to take part in civil society in Afghanistan. Everyone who participated in American initiatives is now in danger. And then there are those that supported our troops, stood shoulder to shoulder with them in a war zone, and bravely chose to put their lives at risk to help save our soldiers. We have a moral duty now to do, as the Bible says, welcome the stranger. Matthew 25:31-40 says, I was hungry and you gave me food. I was thirsty and you gave me drink. I was a stranger and you welcomed me. It is now our time to turn and show some good old-fashioned Southern hospitality and welcome these refugees. Donate supplies to World Relief, donate funds to Welcome South for legal aid, or write your representatives and tell them that you hope they will do what they can to help. Do just as we have encouraged those in Afghanistan to do in the last 20 years. Take part in society and make a difference. To get more information on our show, please check us out on the web at GHS-TV.org, where we are streaming live 24 hours a day. You can also check us out on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Thank you for joining me, Jerri Green, today. I hope you will tune into Public Square next time as we continue to explore important topics and avenues for true civic engagement.